Good morning, Boyd Handley. So grateful that you are here today. I know that our time is a bit limited. And this is a quote: until you have a kid with special needs, you have no idea of the depth of your strengths, tenacity, and resourcefulness. How do you relate to that?
Well, as we've talked before, I've got a daughter with special needs who we have guardianship of. She's 26. And, there's a lot of things with those kids. They'll, never grow up and leave the home. But a lot of them won't get married. You won't have grandkids. And, when the kids go off to college, the parents are all upset because they're missing them. But it's those things that you won't experience, and it's very difficult. My wife has a lot of friends who are very close, but really don't understand, what it takes to look after a child with special needs. With ours is very easy, but I mean, you've got some that have major disabilities, and the little things that we take for granted about running to the store. No, well, we'll have to either someone stays with our daughter or we take her with us, and things like that. You're going shopping, you want to keep an eye on her. So, it's something that you do that with a very young child, but we continue to do that with our 26-year-olds. So it's those little things that we deal with that most folks just don't realize. And, they tell us, why do you do this? Or why do you don't let her go out, or things of that nature. So, that kind of hits home because until you've really walked the walk and done all of that, it's hard to understand what you give up, well, what you enjoy. Yeah.
Well, that's a very important point, because so many of us just assume if a child, quote unquote, looks normal
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't have a deformity of some sort, or then we just assume that they can act like anybody else.
Yep. Yep.
And does that ever happen with you? That because from what you shared, your daughter doesn't.
Well, a lot of folks, and when they see her, they say, "Where are you going to college?" or things of that nature, because she's looks normal like any other young lady, and so things like that. And then we see pictures of her friends that she was in high school, or prior to that, and they've grown up with kids of their own, looking very mature. And so it hits home in those situations. You're used to it, but then when you see that, you see the major differences. Uh,
How do you as a parent take care of yourself? That's quite a stress, because it's like there's no end. I knew my kids were going to grow up and leave the home, go to college, etc. And you don't have that progression. How do you just take care of yourself in this
well,
situation?
this. Of course, I've got a law practice now, and prior to that, I was a geologist for 40 years, and I was away from the house. Carrie, my wife, she has to try to take off some, because she's always here, and always, whether she's working or taking Caitlin to her classes or work, she doesn't get away from it. And she's actually published a number of articles on some of the disability magazines that explain some of the mental issues that parents deal with. And I'll actually send you those if she hasn't, because it's very important. And I tell my clients is you've got to look after yourself. If you don't keep up your health and your mental issues, then you can't look after your children. And, it is a 24/7 deal, not as much with us, but, with some parents, hopefully they've got some caregivers that come in and give them some breaks, because otherwise they'll be, their whole lives around that. You've got to have some time off for sure.
And now, an interesting point you brought up, which I really was not aware of, is that you use the word guardianship. And I did not know that she's your daughter. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you obviously are her guardian. So why do you say guardianship?
Yeah, what happens in Texas when these children turn 18, they're adults. So you go from having control over them to having no control over them, such as, I tell my parents, be sure you have your power of attorney, medical power of attorney, and HIP on yourselves, because if one of us gets in a wreck and becomes incapacitated in a coma or something, then we can't even call the doctor to ask about my spouse unless I have those documents. And the same thing with your kids. Once they turn 18, you can't go to the doctor with them. There's a decision-making agreement that you can get signed, but that will help you. But you have to go through the procedure of guardianship in order to look after them after they turn 18, especially if they have intellectual disability issues or nonverbal and things like that. You almost need a guardianship versus power of attorney and medical power of attorney, because if they have intellectual disability, they won't even be able to understand and sign those documents. So that's one thing that parents, and we were prepared for it, but it's a very emotional thing. We knew it was coming when Caitlin turned 18, but actually going through it was very traumatic. And even though you prepare for it, because basically you're taking away the rights of these children when you go through guardianship. And guardianship can be partial or full. And we have full guardianship, but you take away the right to pick your residence, marriage, right to vote, to drive a car, to purchase firearms, which is not a big one, and you basically take all their rights away. And so it's a huge decision for parents to make.
Yeah, sometimes I can imagine, even though it's coming, it's obvious. Kind of reminds me like when my dad was dying, it was obvious he was dying. It was in a way a blessing because of the situation. But when he actually died, it was a shock.
Yeah.
I can tell you logically, of course, it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
But inside my heart, it was like, wait a minute, that's my dad, though. That's dad.
Yep, that's right. And it helps for me in my practice to have gone through it myself, because I understand what these parents are feeling. And it's more of a lot of times I'm more of a guidance counselor and a listener than an attorney, because a lot of these parents need to have outlet if they don't. And with my wife, we have a lot of groups that we refer parents to, because it gets overwhelming. It's like a huge maze and with a puzzle, and there's so many things that they don't know that you need to know. And we try to help as best we can.
And I think that this is important for the people that are listening, because a lot of the women, they might be in this situation where they feel overwhelmed, because
Mm-hmm.
women come to me, they are basically overwhelmed and stuck. And maybe they're stuck in this kind of situation, or maybe similar. Maybe they know that they're going to be taking care of mom and dad, and they
Yeah.
have to take the guardianship. Or maybe there's situations where there's addiction or something like that, where they have to. So this is really very pertinent to everyone, because we never know in our lives when this is going to happen, or we have to be aware of that. You had shared this with me. Show class, have pride, and display character. If you do, winning takes care of itself, by Paul Bear Bryant. Now, you're from Alabama, apparently, right?
Well, I'm an Alabama fan, and married to a Yankee from New York, so it's interesting, a combination there. But Bear Bryant was a famous football coach, and had a lot of integrity, and I kind of like that, because I try to have a lot of integrity in what I do and work. What you see is what you get. And I think I told you, but in the previous life as a geologist, I had a president come into my office. We were doing reserve estimates and asked me to change something on a map. And I was young, and I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. You can ask one of the other geologists to do it, because I knew it was not right. And mom and dad brought me up doing that, and never had a repercussion from it. So, I tell these young kids is that, keep your integrity, regardless what happens at work, you can keep it. And in most cases, you won't have any repercussions from it, but you'll be able to sleep good at night.
That's the thing that, a lot of times that we do, is that when we betray our own personal integrity. And it doesn't even have to be something as really very stressful as, you know, having a boss come to you and ask you to do something illegal. By the way, you happen to be the second person that I've chatted with that has had this exact same
Mm,
experience, which I find very, very intriguing,
yeah.
albeit it was a long time ago. However, when we betray what's really true to us, what's right for us, we're also, you know, betraying when we say
Mm,
yes and we mean no.
yeah.
When we, you know, and I think that personal integrity, you brought up a really, really good point, because being true to ourselves sometimes is not fun, you know.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes, and for sure, for sure.
And you know, might be lonely. In the end, I think the gift is that we get to like ourselves, maybe not the situation,
Yeah.
but like ourselves.
Well, having, of course, I've got other parts of my practice other than helping families with special needs, but I treat my clients like family. A lot of the things that I do with my special needs parents is what I did for myself. I know it works. We've gone through that, so that's just how I approach things. Of course, I think I've told you, I'd much rather win the lotto and do this for free because I enjoy helping people, especially with my second career. But you've got to pay the bills. But it's very hard. We went up against the school district many, many years ago, and we went to an attorney and asked him to help us. And first thing he told us, "Well, give me a $10,000 retainer." That's
Oh
crazy.
my God.
Parents are spending that kind of money on their kids. So, like I say, my daughter is my beach house in Florida, but
Yes.
they don't have that money, and so my wife quit her job for a year and a half and researched and did everything, and we took the school district to arbitration in Austin and won. But you know, which is great. I mean, if I could have given her my law degree, I would have, because she did a phenomenal job.
My God.
Um, but what I'm trying to get at is, I feel for these parents because they're working full time, trying to pay for their kids' medical issues. I've just had a client 2 days ago that said, of course, they were fortunately on a waiver program that was having, but they're spending 60,000 a month on medicine,
A
uh,
month?
a month.
Oh my
And
God.
just because the medicine is used for another uh, deal, but they're using it for something else, so they can't get the cheap price that the others of medicine, same price. So these parents are under phenomenal stress, and so it's always a blessing to be able to help someone.
You did mention that you do other things and you get into elderly care.
Yeah, do a little bit of elderly care. I do probate, which is taking the wills when someone dies and taking them to court. I do wills and trust, of course, a lot of special needs trust, because with these kids that are getting Medicaid can only have $2,000 in assets. So we do a special needs trust to hold any inheritance or anything that parents may give these kids as they get older. And
What about, oh, I'm sorry, please go on.
do a lot of guardianships, elder law, of course, do a lot of SSI and Medicaid counseling, and that all kind of runs together.
Question about the elder law. What have you encountered regarding as a parent gets older and the children are, you know, suddenly together after maybe 50 years of being apart? Um, what has been your experience with some of this?
Yeah, well, I was the attorney at Lottom in guardianships. You're the attorney for the parents trying to get guardianship, and the court appoints what they call an attorney ad litem to look after your child in court. I was appointed one for a 65-year-old gentleman the other day that his parents are in the 80s, and actually old. He's probably a little bit less older, but and they can't take care of him anymore. Has some mental issues, so they've requested Harris County Guardianship Program to look after them. So we were in court getting them to take over the guardianship of the person, and that's about the only thing you can do now. With our daughter, I've got a son. My daughter's half brother that's 32. we pray that he'll take good care of his half sister as we get older. But I mean, that's the issue with all us, all the parents with kids with special needs and young adults, is what's going to happen to them after we die. My daughter, you can talk to her for 5 minutes and you wouldn't know anything wrong. So, you don't want her to go into a home, once we're gone.
Let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Two things. Number one is that that's a burden. That's a burden on your son. I mean, that really is. I mean, at what 30? I don't know. Maybe he's different, but a 32-year-old kid knowing that someday he might be strapped with this. That's an awful
Right.
lot
It's
on a
terrible.
kid.
It
And
is terrible.
and I
Yes.
really hope that there is some other solution because, then he doesn't. And I hear you. It's just that I feel for your son because it's like, which one
That's right.
wants to get married, have a child, have a family, and then he's has that. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see. Maybe there's going to be better alternatives by that time, God
Hope
willing.
so. Hope so. Yeah.
But have you ever noticed in elder law, what I was wondering about is the kids not being able to agree on certain ways to take care of their parent, and it's causing upset. And have you encountered that, or is this something?
Yeah, I'm in a contested guardianship case now where you've got two sisters arguing over their 92-year-old mother on how to take care of her, and it's just really a shame. And most of the time, the kids will agree on something, but you do have situations where they don't. And it's really important to have what we used to call a living will or a physician's directive, that if you get into a non-curable situation or uh, in ends of cancer, then how do you want to end your life? And those are important because there's nothing worse than children arguing over whether to take mom off a ventilator and let her go. And so, I tell my clients is that you may not want to do it, but think about your children down the road if you're in an accident or something like that. And it's mother had one, and she was in a coma before she died. And of course, I didn't quite do what she said because it's very difficult. But I tried to respect her wishes as much as possible. And of course, I was the only son. My brother had died some 30 years ago, but it's hard. And if I can tell my clients to at least take as much guilt off their kids at that time, it's very important. But you see that a lot.
Yes, and also having the siblings get along. I think that is. Um, do you ever find that maybe their their outward issue is really not it? I mean, it might be more of dating back to when they were kids in control, or relationships that they might have had that one kid wants to kind of suddenly after 50 whatever years, kind of bring to the forefront.
Yeah, I've had a family issue where I've had an uncle that died, and that we had some issues with his second wife and his kids and all of that. And you think someone, and then you get into that situation where you throw stress in, death in, and everyone changes. I won't go into it, but I mean, it's better to I try to tell my clients is whatever you can do now to take everything away, whether we can do stuff and take stuff out of probate in a living will or in a death, deed, and keep everything from the kids having to take all the property to probate and go in front of the judge and have to worry about it. And so it's amazing when money and everything else comes in, how people change from, you've been knew them for 25 years and just as nice, but then at one point, all that comes to head and they're totally different people. And so, I try to tell clients with personal experiences that, at least do that. I had a client the other day that died from COVID, and
Oh no.
I told her that she was in bad shape. She had some medical issues anyway, but I said, while we're working on your will, please do a holographic will. And I told her, how to write that out on a piece of paper, and she didn't do that. So now her son's calling me, and we've got to go through all these hoops, and that she died without a will.
Oh,
And
no.
unfortunately, she also left a life insurance policy to her granddaughter, which I told her not to do. So the son we now have to go to court and get a guardianship of the estate on his daughter, so the insurance company will give her the money.
Oh, my
So,
God.
I try to tell clients everything, and unfortunately, a lot of things I've been telling them is coming true now in COVID, that please do A, B, C, and D, because the amount of work and headache and stress afterwards, you should be grieving over your death of your parent, but yet you've got all these things you've got to worry about now.
So what I'm hearing is that, especially now, and this is so pertinent to everybody, have a will, right? Have a power of attorney. And
yeah, in fact, the power of attorney, medical power of attorney, and HIPAA being able to request medical records, they're all really more important than your will right now, because they will allow your children or someone to help you before you die if you get where you can't make decisions. So, you know, it's more prevalent now because we're seeing so many friends and people, die in normal times, but then you're seeing them due to this COVID stuff. And it really is starting to hit home now for a lot of people.
I think so. And this is very good. And this is so helpful for everybody who's listening. Oh my goodness, our time goes so fast. It's so interesting talking with you. You are so full of information. Would you please share your favorite two songs, and why are they your favorite two songs? Because maybe we want to start listening to them.
Well, one's a fairly new one. It's Humble and Kind from Tim McGraw. I tend to go towards songs more than quotes, but it's got a few good phrases. Is visit Grandpa every chance you can. It won't be wasted time. And my parents or grandparents are gone, and it hits home with that. And hold the door for someone. Say please. Say thank you. Don't steal. Don't cheat. And then don't expect a free ride from no one. Don't hold a grudge or chip. And here's why: bitterness keeps you from flying. I mean, that song just hits home with a lot of things, and especially if your parents are gone, both of mine, and it's hard. You used to call up mom every day and see how she was doing, and well, kind of let me ask mom what about this, but it's very difficult being without your parents now. I'm old now, but that's fine. But, it's interesting feeling. Mine left January 2015. So, I mean, it's
Oh,
been 5 years now, but I still
much.
think about picking falling up and calling them. But, that's a good home. And then the other one is The Dance by Garth Brooks. It's like, you want to go through life and enjoy stuff. It may be difficult, it may be painful, but you don't want to miss the dance. And that just says that the trials and tribulations that you go through, enjoy them. I mean, there's ups and downs. Enjoy your family. Be humble and kind. Life is not worth not being that way, I think.
How can we end on a better note? That is something that we all need to take to heart. And thank you for your time and for
I've
your
enjoyed it.
patience as well, and for your wisdom. Thank you very much,
Thank
Boyd.
you.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much. You too.
Bye-bye.